Welcome to this week's edition of Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Lines are open for your questions, 920-923-1450, 888-900-1450, or if you want to email them, kfizstudio@gmail.com. We welcome, as we do every week for most of the year, the one, the only, Ron Rademann.
Well, good morning.
Good morning to you. Didn't mean to wake you up, but it's that time.
I got a lot going on at this time of year, just like everybody else does. So
the holiday weekend, you're tempted to sleep in, but not here.
Yeah, but not this morning.
Not this morning. And we also welcome Master Gardener Carol. Hello.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
I always wondered that little ditty, that little song that comes before we come on. What is that?
Their theme.
Their theme? Okay, they have a theme.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's kind of been the
years.
The Landscape Smart theme for, I don't know how long before I started doing the show. Let's put it that way.
It's been there a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's lovely.
It is. It came off of a music service that radio stations buy, which gives you music beds for different advertisers or whatever, and that one became designated as this program's theme and was never ever used for anything else and never will be, because I think that whole series of program background music is history. So there's,
So that's how it got to be there.
So it's there.
Good.
Now you got the background.
Now we know.
The
Alrighty.
background to the background.
And now you know the rest of the story.
The rest of the story.
I don't know if we even know how this. That's a little bit of the story, I guess.
Well, that's somebody had to pick that. I remember doing it. That's, I hate to admit it, that many years ago, but it was a lot of years ago, and played a lot of different ones. And we decided, hey, that just fits the tone of the show, and
It does.
that's what we used, and never stopped. So, anyhow, lines are open, and we do always recommend you call your questions in early. And it's always recommended to call them in unless you're really bashful and have to email them in, because a lot of times these two people have some follow-up questions and they can ask the computer, but the computer doesn't answer. Whereas if you're on the line, you will. So if you got a question, give a holler. And I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to be a big planting weekend.
I would think so.
The week leading up to Memorial Day is traditionally the busiest garden center week of the year. So, especially here in Wisconsin, I don't know, it might be the week before Mother's Day or the week before Easter if you're further south, let's put it that way. But here in Wisconsin,
or the 4th of July weekend if you're in the UP.
Yeah. Well, that's, and, the threat of frost is over now. We've got, actually this morning's lows are going to be about the lowest temperatures that we're going to see here now in the next couple of weeks. And even today's high of 69 or 70, whatever we hit, that's going to be the lowest high temperature that we're going to see in the next couple of weeks too. It's all upper 70s and 80s.
And even upper 80s on Tuesday.
So, yeah, so it's going to, we're going to, our 3-day long spring is over. We're on to summer now. We went from winter to summer this spring, let's put it that way.
Well, it got so chilly this week, I ended up turning the heat on again. I thought I wasn't going to do that anymore this year, but I got up one morning, it's cold in here.
Yeah, we didn't quite get frost, at least not here in central Wisconsin. They got frost again further north, just this past week.
Well, their last average frost date is early June in the Northwoods.
Mm-hmm.
Ours, I think I saw, was May 9th.
Yeah, it's something around,
That
kind
time
of
of year, yeah.
8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, around
here.
Around Fond du Lac, Beaver Dam.
And we violated that this year.
We did. Mm-hmm.
We were below average, shall we say. Anyhow, lines are open. Give us a holler or give us an email. We're ready for you.
I have a question if I can ask. I have friends who have beetles, and I think they call them
The Beatles?
Beetles.
Oh, not the Beatles.
Not the Beatles.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
And I think they're called the Japanese beetles. Or they would say the Asian beetles, the ones that, come out midsummer and eat all the raspberries. And
Yeah, that's Japanese
that's
beetle.
Japanese beetles.
And they're kind of in the ground yet right now. The larvae are there. You can still apply insecticide to them.
I remember you talking about that. So you pour it on the ground,
You
like
pour
around
it on the ground right now. You'll mix it up in like a sprinkling can. Usually works the best. Or we have it available in concentrate, which at Rademann's. Which if you can go out there this morning until noon and pick some up.
And what's it called?
Well, I like using annual tree and shrub insecticide, and some of those, there's different ones that call themselves once a year and different things like that try to trick you into thinking it's as effective. But the reason I like ours at Rademann's, the annual tree and shrub, is you can use it on edible plants like raspberries or things like that, whereas some of the other ones, it'll clearly say don't put it on a product that you plan on, if you're eating them. And it's always best to, even if you don't have that intention to begin with, it's always best to, you might as well work with something like that so that in case it ever does come up or you decide to give some to a neighbor or a friend or a relative or something, on their patch, use the one that we have out at Rademann's. It's called Annual Tree and Shrub Insecticide, and you put it down once a year, and it controls Japanese beetle.
And you spray it on the ground around the bed.
Yeah, you kind of use it more as a drench, actually.
Yes. Okay, pour it on.
Yeah, you mix it up. Follow the directions on the package and mix it up with water, and then pour it around the base of the tree. Because they attack trees, and a lot of them, well, we probably see it most on linden or elm, not so much on maple. And because they go after trees, and then the beetles will eat the leaves, and then they lay eggs, and of course the eggs drop. So they're typically found mainly around trees. So if you had the problem one year with the tree, you're going to have it the next year too, because they drop the eggs, and of course the eggs are hatching now, and they're growing, and then they'll emerge from the ground here in a few weeks. And by then it's almost too late. You want to catch them right now or earlier in the year or last fall would have been, it would work too. But if you didn't do it last fall or earlier this year, it's better late than never. So do it right now.
Okay. I will let them know.
You kind of alluded to it, and we didn't ask in the beginning. Are you open today?
Yeah, we didn't quite, we got carried away here, but Rademann's, yes, we are open this holiday weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all our veterans and those who gave everything for us.
Here.
So, but yeah, we are open this weekend. We aren't typically open like on 4th of July weekend, and although every year is a little bit different, you have to stay tuned to find out what the program is for that. But we're open till noon today, and we're not open on Sunday or Monday, Memorial Day, but of course we are open typically Monday through Friday till 4:30. So
head down now.
I'm not 100% sure if you can still get a delivery. They were taking deliveries earlier, but it is a busy weekend. So if you do want a delivery yet for working on things here today, tomorrow, or Monday, you have to call ASAP to Rademann's and see if you can talk them into doing your delivery yet this morning. So
see how good a salesman you are.
Right.
Can I sell you on getting me some black dirt today or whatever?
Sure. It's hope it's not too late. I can't ever say that because we could have gotten a dozen calls in the last half an hour, and we may be filled in by now. And but as of yesterday afternoon and first thing this morning, I think we had some openings yet for today. So call quickly.
You had lots of good black dirt questions last week.
Yeah, well, we had some people are kind of working on their vegetable gardens and things like that. So we have the garden mix available, and if you're doing perennials or vegetable gardens, that's better than the shredded black dirt. It's quite similar, except there's more compost blended into the garden mix than what there is in our typical shredded black dirt. We have a small percentage of compost in our shredded black dirt, but not as much as in our garden soil. So it works in a little bit better that way. And for grass, the regular shredded black dirt is best. But for lawns or for gardens and things like that, use our garden mix.
Oh, it's a mix, and even perennials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
sure.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, while we are waiting for that first call, let's take our first break.
That sounds like a good idea. And as we just said a moment ago, Rademann's is open today. The phone number, if you want that delivery, is 920-922-7612. Or stop on out this morning before noon, just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, just off Highway 41 to the east, about 1/10 of a mile on County B.
And we are back, Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. And we have a caller. Good morning. You are on the air.
Good morning.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Had a question concerning the apple trees. Actually, two questions. Fertility for apple trees. What's the proper ratio of NP and K for them, and when should they be fertilized? And then also spraying schedules for them, and what products to use.
Well, like out at Rademann's, we actually have a fruit tree spray, which is, works on fruit trees. It also works on roses and things like that. Anything in the rose family, which pears and apples are, it'll work well with. But it says it right on the front of the label of the packaging. It's fruit tree spray. So that's the one I like to use because it does cover fungicide and insecticide. And while you're out there picking up that, you could pick up some NutriPack fertilizer packets, because the NutriPack fertilizer packets are good for 4 or 5 years, which is really nice because you don't have to think about it every year. And the formulation there is a 16-16-16. So and that's what you want on fruit trees, is something as balanced as you can. If you would use something like lawn fertilizer on a fruit tree, you'd get a lot of growth, but you wouldn't get the good fruit and the good flowering that you get with the balanced fertilizer. They need the phosphorus, especially in the potash, that develops, that's for good fruit development, actually. And with the 16% nitrogen in there, you're going to get good growth and good fruit. So I really like the NutriPack packets for fruit trees. And they're a little, you can get some spikes also, which we don't actually have at Rademann's. But the spikes are only good for 1 year. So then you're putting them in year after year, rather than the packets are a little harder to install, but then you don't have to think about it again for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. So that's why I like to use the packets. So
that's great information on the insecticide, or the fruit spray, I should say. What is that? What's the active ingredient in there? Is that a copper product?
I can't say for sure here. We've got quite a few things going on those, and I'm not exact. I don't want to back myself into a corner and say what it is. I'll see if I can find that out over the break, though. I'm not sure if I'll be able to or not, because we only get a minute. But that would, I can't say for sure what it is on there, but it is, it's designed for fruit trees. It's an organic spray that stifles the insects and controls the fungus. It's not a real strong, potent one that you would. So if you're trying to control funguses on blue spruce, for example, then I would recommend more of a true fungicide. But this one here would, and you want to get started right away because it's just the right time. Actually, the first application probably should have been done even a week or two ago, and you'd be on to your second application in another week or two, but better sooner than later. So I'd kind of get on that program right away. And if you spray, now and a couple times in June, once in June or a couple times late June and July, yet that's usually good enough. 3 or 4 applications is sufficient. That way you're not spraying as the fruit. It gets plenty of time then it's another couple months of time before you have to worry about the chemical on the apples. So or on any
my
of the fruit.
understanding is you are not to spray until after flower drop. Is that correct?
Right, and you don't want to do anything to affect the pollination. So once because if you're spraying an insecticide at the time when it's gonna slow down your pollinating activity by the bees. So as soon as the petals drop and the bees are done with their work, then you want to get right on it right away. So that's why they flowered, they're kind of they're finishing up flowering right now, or they've already finished a week or two ago. Apple trees kind of depend on, if you're in town or out in the country or closer to the lake, it can be delayed by a little bit. It even, they even flower out a week earlier in Ripon than what they do in Fond du Lac and Plymouth, for example, because it heats up a little further in Ripon or Beaver Dam than what it does in Fond du Lac and Sheboygan because of the lake. So I can't really tell you. Where are you actually from?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. You're almost a relative maturity zone difference. We're in eastern Fond du Lac County, so it's you see more of that influence of Lake Michigan, and it just doesn't warm up as fast.
Sure.
And the apple trees are in a lower area, so they've been seeing some pretty cold temperatures at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just even like you said, eastern Fond du Lac County is different than western Fond du Lac County. It might be 5 or 6 days difference as far as blooming sequence, which makes a big difference when you're trying to spray at the optimum time. And it's always kind of hard to hit the exact day correctly. It can be windy that day or rainy that day, so you might have to delay it by a couple days, 2 or 3 days, but at least you're kind of in the ballpark right around now. So,
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that great information. I appreciate it.
And we appreciate the call.
Yeah, as long as you're using a balanced fertilizer, not in liquid fertilizers or water soluble, they can be they're more pricey, and you need a lot of it for if you're trying to do larger apple trees and fruit trees. So, you could use that, but that's where the packets are kind of the best balance between price, value, and functionality. So that's and those packets, even though they're good for 4 or 5 years, we usually install them like every other year. And that way you've kind of got a constant flow. Don't wait until the 4th or 5th year, because they do start losing their effectiveness, and the trees grow in those 2 years. They can handle more fertilizer. So,
okay, are they put around just the crown of the trunk of the tree then? And
yeah, well, it kind of depends on the size of the tree, like what is the trunk diameter on the trees roughly that you're fertilizing, more like in the 2 to 3 inch range or 5 or 6 inch caliper?
They're probably 6 to 8 inches in diameter. They're about 20 years old.
Uh-huh. Well, you could probably use about a dozen packets around each tree then, because what you would do is put like a ring of 6 at about 4 feet out from the trunk, and then a second ring of 6 offset those about 2 feet out further. Or you could just do 6 is better than 0. 12 is twice as good as 6. And, maybe, you do that and you're good for the next 4 or 5 years. You may not have to fertilize again. When I was talking about fertilizing every other year, I was thinking of smaller fruit trees, something more in the 2 to 3 inch caliper. But I would maybe do these and you could probably skip 3 years before you would do it again. So,
okay.
Mhm.
In the past, I had just used the leftover row fertilizer, 143630, but I don't have that anymore. And I thought, well, let's find out what I actually should be using instead of what's just left over.
Uh-huh. Well, and that would have been a good product. Actually, it's a little more potent, so you have to be a little careful when you're using, but still it was only 14% nitrogen, but you did have quite a bit of phosphorus and quite a bit of potash in there. So you must have had some pretty good fruit production these last few years.
Well, I have. I just started doing a little bit more fertilizing, but we had so much trouble with insects marring the apples. That's where I had to do a little bit better job on controlling them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even like it's a little late now, but some people don't like spraying directly on fruit, but even dormant oil is helpful, or diatomaceous earth if you don't want to spray the fruit or spray the tree. So you'll get diatomaceous earth, and dormant oil eliminates half of the problems with fruit trees, but it doesn't solve all the problems. I did spray for the first year of dormant oil about early March. Mm-hmm.
I coated the bark with it and all the limbs, so hopefully that should help some.
Oh yeah, it all helps. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Once again, thank you for the great information.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Good.
it was
Good luck.
Yeah, it was a good
call.
timely call. Let's just put it that way. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
all
you.
your help.
All right, enjoy your weekend. Lines are open, 920-923-1450, 888-900-1450. Email-wise, kfizstudio@gmail.com.
And if you were listening or you missed the first part of that answer, of course, you can always go on KFIZ On Demand and re-listen to our show, or early next week, come Monday or Tuesday, Cody does it, and it's on YouTube also, so you can search for Landscape Smart 26, as in the year 2026, and you'll get to hear the same good advice a second time over if you missed it. So
all of it if you missed it.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sounds like they're playing our song.
Playing that song again.
We must be trying to go into a break. So again, Rademann's open today until noon, Memorial Day weekend, Monday through Friday, till 4:30, except not this Monday, of course, as it is Memorial Day. So we aren't open Sunday and Monday.
Be back with a caller next. And we are back, 920-923-1450, and we have a caller. Good morning. You are on the air. Just a quick reminder, once we are on the phone with somebody, I don't have the availability with this system to answer another call, and that caller hung up, so let's try this one. Good morning. You got lucky. The other one hung up. Go ahead. You there?
Hi. Yes, sir.
Okay, you got to turn your radio down. You're echoing.
I don't have my radio on.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe it's just the car. Go ahead.
got bigger pine trees, 25 feet tall. Grass does not grow underneath them that well. What can I do to rectify that?
Well, nothing really, because what's happening there is you've got you're fighting a lot of problems. It's not going to, a lot of times when we get a quarter inch of rain, it never gets past the needles to the ground, so it's dry. Then you've got the needles that have kind of worked their way into the soil or turned into soil. So, it's going to be very acidic. And then the next problem is it's shady. So you really there's nothing you can really do to get grass to grow underneath larger evergreens. No matter what you try, it'll be a futile attempt. You're just
He hung
fighting.
up, so you know.
Yeah, well, he's probably listening yet, I guess. I don't know. I hope so.
Yep.
But anyway, there isn't really anything you can do there.
Bark mulch,
You've got-
stone, something like that.
Well, and if you have put stone underneath them, that's going to get covered up with the needles.
Yeah.
So usually just the
Dirt.
the needle that is dropped makes the nicest mulch. Just kind of re-rake it, reposition it a little bit, and you're going to have to just really live with it, because no matter what you try to do, it won't work. You can't put new, fresh dirt on top of it. Then you'll end up killing, or stunting the evergreens so bad. So, there's really nothing to do. As a matter of fact, you should be kind of removing some of those needles every few years too, because it
Gets thick, right?
it gets too thick under them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Yes, I have a couple questions about trimming trees and bushes, like this weekend, if it's okay to still do that. I have a crabapple tree in the front yard that needs several branches trimmed off, and they're probably 2 to 3 inches around. So, wondering if that's
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yeah, you can, you can still trim deciduous trees. It's always better to do them before they start growing.
I know.
But, the second best time to do them is now. And it's better to do them here right now yet in May or early June, rather than waiting until July or August or September. That's for sure. So yeah,
Okay.
I would go on ahead and do them right now. That way the tree can adjust, and it'll, as it puts out new growth here, especially over the next 6 weeks, it'll kind of fill those gaps in better than it will if you do it later in the season.
Okay,
So-
that's great. And then what about like yew bushes? I have several small ones in the front of the house too. They don't get much sunlight, a little bit afternoon sunlight, so would that be okay to trim that back too?
Well, that's actually a pretty timely question too, because it's so tempting to trim your Japanese yews and your other evergreens right now that are kind of getting ahead of themselves. But if you trim them now, you're going to actually end up trimming them again later in the season, and that kind of goofs up the timing on it. So you want to just kind of leave them alone right now, let them put on this initial flush of growth, and then trim them more like at the next holiday, 4th of July weekend. And if you wait and trim them then, and you get on a cycle of trimming every year, the last week of June, first week or two of July, you can get by with one trimming each year. If you trim them now, you'll end up trimming them again, and then next year you'll be off your cycle again. Or if you trim them now and don't trim them in the fall, then you're going to want to trim them again early. So, as tempting as it is and as bad as they look, you got to just relax, go sit on the deck this weekend and save the trimming for the next holiday.
Okay, so just wait to trim the yew bushes 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, that's your your yews and arborvitas and
Okay.
you know those evergreens like that kind of grow all summer long, and arborvitas have been growing for a month already.
Yeah, I noticed
Yews
that.
maybe more so just in the last couple weeks, but
Yeah, exactly.
so
Okay, well, thank you so much for all your information. Love your show. Listen to it every weekend.
Appreciate that.
so
Thank you.
All right.
yeah, thanks.
Enjoy your holiday weekend trimming your maple trees or whatever they were. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Ron.
Good morning.
I have a crabapple tree that needs iron, or could I use muric acid?
Well, muriatic acid is a pretty potent chemical, so you want to be real careful with that. And muriatic acid will lower the soil pH, so if there's iron in the soil, then it'll be accessible to the tree. If there isn't iron in the soil and you use muriatic acid, it'll lower the soil pH, but it still won't really help. So it would be best to use more of a soil acidifier that would, and some of those like sulfur, for example, will do that, and that lowers the soil pH, and then if it's got iron in it also, that works too. What you'd want to do actually, if you stop out to Rademann's, the NutriPack packets that they have out there actually have sulfur in them and iron in them and copper and zinc, and it's a specialty packet, so you'll actually have to ask them or make sure you pick the right one off the shelf, not the one that's more for fruit and nut and flowering trees. It's the one that's more for evergreens, and it's got a green label on it, and it'll say for use on palm trees actually, because NutriPack doesn't unfortunately manufacture one that specifically has sulfur and iron in it for evergreens. So we use the palm fertilizer, which is, we're probably the only ones that use palm tree fertilizer in Wisconsin. But that's the one that, has the best formulation, and it's typically not used on flowering crabs. You'd think the one for fruit trees would be better for flowering crabs, but if you've actually have an iron deficiency or a soil pH problem, that one would be the best one. But I would be careful with muriatic acid. It's kind of a tough. If you've used it in the past, then go on ahead and use it in limited form. Mix it with water in a sprinkling can, but I wouldn't advise it if you haven't ever tried it before.
Good. These crabapple trees are quite mature. They've been in there since 30 years, I'd say. And the one on the farthest end would be on the west end. On the south end there is thinning out. And your corn announcer there mentioned I believe he had one too that eventually died. The leaves thinned out on it.
It was a neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it could have been even just apple scab that would affect, because a lot of the older varieties of flowering crabapple were more susceptible to apple scab. The newer varieties of flowering crabapple that you would typically find at the upscale garden centers, they would be more they wouldn't be as vulnerable to apple scab. But if you have one that's 30 years old, you probably could be dealing with apple scab, which is a fungus that kind of turns the leaves yellow, and then as they yellow, they'll dry up and drop in late middle of summer, late summer, already in the end of, usually you'll start seeing it in June, and by the end of July, there might be, most of the leaves are already on the ground. But, and if you, I don't know how tech savvy you are, but if you want to take a a picture and email it to us here, I can kind of look it over. You're going to have to do it pretty quick. We've only got about 8 minutes left on the show. So, or do it for next
Week.
Send it through anytime during the week, and then we can look at it next Saturday morning. So,
Okay, thank you, Ron. I appreciate the help.
Alrighty, appreciate the call, and we are going to take our. You alluded to the fact that we're running out of time. Our final break.
So yeah, if you're going to send a question through, send it through quick. Rademann's open till noon today. I'm unsure. You'd have to call to see if you still want a delivery to be sure that we could still get you one. 920-922-7612. Or stop on out. We'll be there for 3 more hours till noon today.
And we will be right back. We are back. The final few minutes of Landscape Smart, brought to you by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Last call for questions. About 5 minutes left. 920-923-1450, 888-900-1450. You want to email it in quickly, kfizstudio@gmail.com.
You've got it.
I got it.
And Jerry was kind of questioning over the break. He said, well, we talked about trying to grow grass underneath evergreens and it won't work. How about underneath shade trees?
Yeah, and I didn't know if we were going to have more calls, so that's why I was blabbing during the break, because that's my problem.
Well, and you still have 2 out of the 3 problems. You just don't have the problem of the acidic soil, but you still have the competition of the roots from the tree. You still have the shade that you're dealing with, and you still have the fact that, when we get a 1 or 2/10 of an inch of rain, it gets the leaves on the trees wet, but it doesn't really drop all the way to the ground. And so you don't get the benefit of watering. So, probably perennials are the best bet. Keep them out more closer to the drip line where you have less competition from roots. And at least if it's windy on the day it rains, it a little blows under, but it's kind of the same thing. You might be better off just having shredded bark mulch around the base of the tree and not trying to fight your way through, trying to get grass to grow through there, because it's a lot of work and a lot of times for nothing.
Yeah, I found that out 3 years in a row.
And even if you're buying a shade tolerant grass, that doesn't resolve the other problem of not watering and the fertility problem and just the fact that there isn't enough good dirt there, because the roots are right there too, especially if it's a maple or a surface rooted tree like that.
Okay.
So,
And you can't pile more dirt on, really.
no,
That's not good.
and the other thing, just always keep in mind you should clean that old bark mulch away off of around trees every few years. You don't have to do it every year, but if you mulch every year, then like once every 3 years, go in there and clean all the old bark mulch out of there first before you put the new mulch down. So every other year, every 3rd year is good. You don't have to do it every year, but just another thing, because if you keep adding the mulch, it breaks down, and pretty soon your tree ends up being kind of planted too deep, so to speak, and then you'll end up with girdling root problems and other issues. So
It amazes me how many surface roots show in the lawn from maple trees.
yeah, and that's where, and it doesn't really help or do them good to add dirt on top of those roots. Just leave the roots there. You're better off, even if you're hitting them with the lawnmower and scuffing them a little bit, that's better than putting dirt around them. Putting mulch around them is okay, and that way you're not scuffing them with the mower. But at least but don't put dirt on top of it.
And if you would decide to put something in a shady area, the only one I'm aware of that would grow if you're looking for low bushy type things is a hosta. But are there other little low type plants, bushes?
Well, there's a lot of great perennial ground covers. Let's say, I don't know if we'll have enough time to get into it here. We're down to the last minute or two now. But, you know, a perennial ground cover that grows in the shade, you know, that's where you're going to attempt at least. So, you know, that would be it. Yeah.
And when you go, I have a lot of that kind of cover, but mine is more wide open. So if you're going to be going under a tree, there would be different kinds of low, creepy, crawly stuff you could use.
Check with the garden center.
Yeah, there's a Pachysandra would be good, or Vinca. You know, those are kind of economical spreading ground covers, let's just say, and they're easy to grow. You know, kind of be careful. There's a few other, you know, snow on the mountain that can really be invasive. Be careful of some of those things, but Pachysandra is probably, you know, one of the most common, been around forever, tried and true. It even holds its color through the winter, and so that's always kind of nice too. So,
guess what that means?
We're done.
Sounds
As
like
you would hear on the Jerry Schneider Show, Das Ende.
And Jerry Schneider will be back.
In about
a little bit.
35 seconds.
Yes.
So anyway, thanks again to our veterans who gave it all over the years. And Rademann's again open today, Saturday of Memorial Day weekend till noon. Typically, we're open Monday through Friday till 4:30, but we will not be open this Monday, of course.
Holiday. Alrighty, our thanks to Master Gardener Carol, our thanks always to Ron, and our thanks to you for your calls. Stick around, 9 to noon today, the Tom and Jerry Schneider Show on News Talk 1450 KFIZ in Fond du Lac. It's 9 o'clock.